Hi, my name's Emily Roberts. I'm 33. I live in a small town just outside of Seattle, and honestly, I never thought I'd be sitting here telling this kind of story. But here I am. I've always been the kind of person who keeps things to herself. You know, the quiet one. The one who listens more than she speaks. Growing up, I was the nice girl. Polite, dependable, the type who never got into drama. And honestly, I thought if I just treated people right, they'd treat me the same way back. That didn't exactly work out the way I'd hoped. I was married for 6 years. His name's Daniel. And at one point, I truly believed he was the love of my life. I really did. We met when I was 26 at a friend's engagement party. He walked in wearing this stupid brown leather jacket and had the most confident, borderline cocky smile I'd ever seen. And I swear, in that moment, it was like everything around us kind of blurred. You know that cliché about time slowing down? It's real. Or maybe I was just naive. Anyway, he asked for my number that night, and we were basically inseparable after that. Within a year, we were married. Things moved fast, but it felt right. Everyone around us used to say we were goals. And in a way, we were. We looked perfect on paper. Daniel was an entrepreneur, running a small but growing marketing agency. I was working as a graphic designer. When we got married, we moved into this cute little house on the edge of town. I painted the walls myself. He built our bookshelf. We had this whole vision for the future, kids, travel, maybe even starting our own business together someday. But life doesn't care about your plans. And people change. It started slow. The little things. He started working late. At first, I didn't think much of it. I mean, growing a business is stressful, right? But then he started missing dinners. Started ignoring my texts. Then he'd get snappy when I asked simple questions like, "Hey, what time will you be home?" Or "Can we go grocery shopping this weekend?" It was like living with a ghost. He was there, physically, but not really there. Still, I told myself it was just a phase. Every couple goes through rough patches. So I tried harder. I cooked more. Cleaned more. Took care of things so he could focus on work. And eventually, I quit my job so I could help him full-time with his agency. That was his idea, by the way. He said we'd be unstoppable if we did it together. So I did it. I put everything into him. Into us. I was handling client emails, organizing his meetings, managing invoices, designing decks, tracking expenses, everything except taking credit for it. And Daniel? He soaked it all in like it was his birthright. No thank yous. No appreciation. Just expectation. And then the lies started. I didn't catch them all at once. They were tiny at first. A text that didn't make sense. A business trip that got extended for reasons. A new cologne he never wore before. I remember one time, I asked him why he suddenly needed a separate laptop, and he said, "Oh, it's just for backups." Like I was stupid. I didn't fight. I didn't scream. I just started listening more closely. And slowly, I started seeing the cracks. One night, he left his laptop open. I wasn't snooping, I swear, I wasn't. But it was open, and a message popped up from someone named Vanessa. I clicked. I shouldn't have. But I did. What I saw made my hands shake. The messages weren't just flirty. They were intimate. Familiar. Like they'd been seeing each other for a while. There were photos. Hotel confirmations. Dinner receipts. Things I had never known about. Things he hid from me for months. That night, I didn't confront him. I closed the laptop. I cleaned up the kitchen. I got into bed beside him and pretended everything was normal. Because in that moment, I made a decision. If Daniel was going to betray me like this, I wasn't going to react emotionally. I wasn't going to scream or break things or let him flip it on me like he always did whenever we argued. I was going to be smart, careful, quiet. I started saving things. Emails, photos, financial records, screenshots of messages, even stuff about his business that, frankly, wouldn't look good if certain people saw it. I created a folder on an external drive. Named it something boring like Tax Stuff 2022. Inside it was everything. And I waited. Months passed. I acted like everything was fine. I played the role of the clueless wife. I still made dinner. Still supported his work. Still laughed at his stupid jokes. And then one Tuesday morning, it all came crashing down. I was at work, yeah, I'd gone back to a part-time design job by then, mostly just to get out of the house, when this guy in a navy suit walks into the office. He looked around like he was searching for someone, then came straight toward me. Emily Roberts? I nodded. He handed me a manila envelope and said, "You've been served." I wish I could say I was surprised. But I wasn't. What surprised me was how public he made it. In front of my coworkers. My manager. The receptionist. Everyone saw it. Daniel wanted to humiliate me. Make me feel small. I took the envelope, smiled politely at the man, and walked into the break room like nothing happened. Inside were the divorce papers. And not just any papers, strategically vicious ones. He wanted the house. The car. The savings. Claimed I didn't contribute financially in years. Said I was dependent. That I was entitled to almost nothing. I sat there staring at the paper and felt nothing. No sadness. No anger. Just clarity. Because he didn't know about my envelope. The black one. Hidden at home. The one labeled Emily's insurance. And the moment I slid that across the table at our mediation 2 weeks later, was the moment his whole plan fell apart. When I slid that black envelope across the table, I didn't say anything dramatic. I didn't raise my voice or throw accusations. I just looked Amanda, the lawyer, right in the eye and said calmly, "You might want to take a look at this before we go any further." She looked a little confused at first. I mean, from her perspective, I was supposed to be the overwhelmed, financially dependent wife who was lucky to be getting anything. She probably thought I'd come in begging for scraps. But then she opened the envelope. I watched her face shift in real time. First, She squinted at the first page, then flipped to the next. Her brows pulled together. Her mouth got tight. She didn't say anything, but her body language changed completely, like the floor had just shifted under her feet. Daniel, who had been sitting next to her looking bored and smug, leaned over to see what she was reading. And the moment his eyes hit that first photo, his entire posture changed. Gone was the confident, relaxed guy who walked in like he'd already won. His shoulders tensed. He leaned back. His hand went up to his face in that way he always did when he was panicking but didn't want anyone to know. He cleared his throat and tried to act unfazed, but I could see it. I knew that look. It was the look of someone who just realized they screwed up way worse than they thought. Because in that envelope was the full picture. The messages between him and Vanessa weren't just flirty, they were disgusting. They talked about me. Laughed about me. Called me names. Talked about the way they'd phase me out slowly so I wouldn't see it coming. Vanessa even made a joke about how dumb I must be to not notice. Well, Vanessa, surprise. And that wasn't all. There were bank transfers from our joint account to some consulting firm that didn't exist. Turns out, that's how he was sending her money. There were flight receipts for business trips that lined up with vacations Vanessa posted about on Instagram. He used his company's card to pay for everything: flights, hotels, dinners, even a spa weekend. You can't just lie and cheat and steal from your own business and think there won't be consequences. I'd also printed out a couple of questionable contracts he'd signed, ones he never reported properly. The kind of thing that, if I was feeling petty, could be forwarded to a few places that handle, let's just say, ethical business practices. Amanda quietly gathered the documents and asked for a short break. Daniel didn't look at me. Not once. I didn't move. I just sat there, calm, hands folded on the table, looking down at the surface like it was the most interesting thing in the world. But inside, I wasn't feeling victorious. I wasn't even angry anymore. I just felt done. Done with the lies. The games. The pretending. I didn't want revenge. I didn't want to ruin his life. I just wanted my life back. They took about 20 minutes. When they came back into the room, Amanda looked a little pale. Her voice was more polite now. Almost respectful. "We're willing to renegotiate the terms," she said softly. And just like that, the tone changed. I didn't even have to argue. I just sat there while they rewrote everything. Suddenly, I was no longer a financially dependent spouse. Suddenly, they acknowledged my contributions. Suddenly, they were offering me the house, a fair cut of the business, and even part of the retirement savings he thought I didn't know about. Daniel tried to throw in a few snide comments, things like, "You're not going to do anything with the house anyway," or "It's just money, Emily, stop acting like this is some victory." But I didn't bite. I just smiled politely and said, "You're right. It is just money." But he knew. Oh, he knew what I meant. Because it wasn't about the money. It was about the disrespect. The betrayal. The way he tried to erase me like I was just some extra in his story, like I hadn't been there through everything. Like I hadn't put my entire soul into building something with him. I think that's what gets me the most. It's not just the cheating. It's the fact that he looked at everything I gave every late night, every time I supported him, every time I put him first, and decided it wasn't worth anything. Like it was all disposable. I stayed for a long time because I believed in us. I thought, okay, maybe he's just stressed. Maybe he'll come back to himself. But the truth is, sometimes people don't come back. Sometimes they leave, and they don't even have the decency to tell you. They just slowly disappear and wait for you to give up. After the meeting, I went home and sat on the floor of my living room for a while. I didn't even cry. I just sat there in the silence, breathing, letting it settle. And then I got up and made dinner. For myself. Just me. Nothing fancy. Just some pasta with garlic and olive oil and a little lemon, something simple. Something comforting. And for the first time in a long time, it actually tasted good. That weekend, I started packing his stuff. Not angrily. Not bitterly. Just matter of fact. I boxed up his clothes, his toiletries, his gadgets. Left them neatly in the garage for him to collect. He texted me once. Said, "You didn't have to go this far." I stared at the message for a long time before replying. I said, "I didn't go anywhere. You just didn't think I'd ever stand up." He never responded after that. And I think that's the part he couldn't handle, not the envelope, not the documents, not even the money. It was the fact that I didn't scream. That I didn't break down. That I stayed calm and watched him fall apart all on his own. Because deep down, Daniel needed me to be the weak one. The emotional one. The one he could paint as crazy when things went south. But I didn't give him that. I gave him silence, strength, and facts. And I walked away with everything he tried to take from me, my dignity, my confidence, my peace. The house feels different now. Quieter. But not in a sad way. It's peaceful. I sleep through the night. I play music when I cook. I light candles in the evening, just because I feel like it. I don't have to wait for someone to come home late, pretending everything's fine. Everything isn't fine. But it's getting there. And I'm proud of myself. I used to think standing up for yourself meant yelling or fighting or slamming doors. But sometimes, it just means knowing your worth and refusing to let someone treat you like you're less than. I don't know what Daniel's doing now. I don't really care. I'm busy building a life I don't have to recover from. It's been almost 3 months since that day in the mediation room, and I still think about it sometimes, not in a bitter way, but more like, when you replay something in your head just to remind yourself it actually happened. That I really did it. I really stood up for myself. If you've ever had someone slowly chip away at your confidence, you'll understand what I mean. You start second-guessing everything. Your instincts. Your memories. Even your own worth. That was me for years. I used to think I was overly sensitive. Too emotional. Too clingy. I'd ask Daniel why he was pulling away, and he'd roll his eyes and say things like, "You're imagining it," or "Not everything is about you, Emily." And I believed him. I mean, if someone you love keeps telling you you're the problem, eventually, you start to believe it. But now I'm starting to trust myself again. It's like I'm slowly piecing together the version of me that existed before I became his shadow. Don't get me wrong, it's not like life magically became amazing. It's still hard. I still get hit by random waves of emotion. Like I'll be doing the dishes, and suddenly, I'll remember a stupid little moment, him brushing my hair off my face on our honeymoon, or the time we slow danced in our kitchen barefoot after a stressful day, and it hits me like a punch to the chest. Because the love was real. At least for me. But then I remember all the times I sat in our living room alone, staring at the clock, wondering where he was. The birthdays he forgot because he was working. The anniversaries where I sat across the table from him, trying to force conversation while he scrolled through his phone. The night I made reservations at his favorite restaurant and he just didn't show up. So yeah. The love might have been real once. But it wasn't enough. Not when it was so one-sided. A few weeks ago, I ran into his sister at the grocery store. We were never super close, but we were friendly. She looked surprised to see me and didn't say much, just asked how I was holding up. I smiled and said, "Better than I expected, honestly." She paused for a second and then said, "He's been quiet. Not himself." And for a moment, just a moment, I felt that old pang of guilt. That urge to fix things. To soften. To say something comforting, like, "Yeah, he's going through a lot," or "He didn't mean to hurt me." But I didn't say any of that. Instead, I nodded and said, "I hope he finds whatever it is he's looking for. Because I'm done carrying things that don't belong to me. I'm not responsible for his emptiness. Or his choices. Or his silence. I was there. I gave him everything I could. And when he decided that wasn't enough, that was on him. You know what's wild, though? I kept waiting for him to come back. Even after the papers were signed, after he picked up the last of his things, after the locks were changed, a part of me still expected a message. An apology. Some kind of grand gesture that said, "I was wrong. I see you now. I'm sorry." But nothing came. He just disappeared. And that, I think, hurt more than anything else. Not because I wanted him back, I didn't. But because I spent so long believing that if I just loved him enough, he'd see me. That deep down, he was still that sweet guy I met at the engagement party. The one who kissed my hand in front of strangers and danced with me in parking lots. But that guy? He was long gone. Or maybe he was never really there to begin with. My therapist, yeah, I started seeing someone, told me something a few weeks back that really stuck with me. She said, "Emily, it's not your fault you fell in love with his potential. That's what most of us fall for. But potential means nothing if it stays in your imagination." And she's right. I fell in love with the version of him I thought he could be. The version I wanted him to be. But the reality? The real Daniel? He wasn't that man. And maybe he never would be. I'm still figuring things out. I'm learning to be okay on my own. I've started going on long walks in the mornings, just me and my coffee and whatever playlist matches my mood. I've started painting again, too. Nothing fancy, just abstract stuff, but it feels good to create without anyone judging it. I even moved my workspace into what used to be his office. I repainted the walls, added plants, put up fairy lights. It doesn't feel like his space anymore. It feels like mine. And maybe the most surprising thing? I've started laughing again. Like really laughing. At stupid shows. At memes my best friend sends me. At how bad I am at baking. It feels weird sometimes, catching myself smiling for no reason. But it also feels like I'm coming back to life. People keep asking me if I'm going to date again. I don't really know how to answer that. Maybe someday. But right now, I'm just trying to fall back in love with my life first. I did go out once, a casual dinner with a friend of a friend. He was nice, funny, respectful. But the whole time, I could feel myself tensing up whenever he asked personal questions. Like my body still doesn't fully trust that someone isn't going to twist my words or use them against me later. It's going to take time. But I'm not rushing. I spent too long rushing into things, convincing myself they were right because I wanted them to be right. This time, I'm being honest with myself, first and foremost. I'm learning that healing isn't linear. Some days I feel amazing, empowered, free. And other days? I lie in bed too long and avoid answering texts and rewatch the same episode of some comfort show 3 times in a row. And that's okay. Because healing isn't about being perfect. It's about being honest. And finally, after years of pretending everything was fine when it wasn't, I'm being honest. With myself. With the people around me. With what I want. What I need. Daniel taught me a lot. Not because he was a good teacher, but because I learned who not to be. What not to accept. What not to ignore. And for that, weirdly, I'm thankful. Not for the pain, but for the clarity. For the strength I didn't know I had. For the version of me that's slowly rising out of the wreckage, a little bruised, maybe, but not broken. Never broken. I used to think healing would feel like climbing out of a dark hole and stepping into the sunlight all at once. But the truth? It's more like slowly crawling, scraping your knees along the way, squinting at the light in the distance, and wondering if you'll ever actually get there. But lately, I think I've been catching glimpses of it. It started with small things. Like the first time I walked into a restaurant alone and didn't feel awkward. I sat at a booth, ordered my own glass of wine, and didn't even pretend to look busy on my phone. I just sat there. Present. Comfortable. It felt weirdly powerful. Then there was the afternoon I got an email from my lawyer. She told me Daniel had finally signed the final paperwork, and everything was officially closed. No more mediation. No more drawn-out negotiations. No more "we'll get back to you on that." It was done. I stared at the email for a long time. You'd think I'd feel relief, or joy, or maybe even a little sadness, but I just felt still. Like my whole body went quiet. I didn't cry. I didn't smile. I just exhaled. Long and deep. I realized I'd been holding my breath for months, maybe years. That evening, I poured myself a glass of wine, sat on the balcony, and watched the sun go down over the rooftops. It was one of those soft, golden sunsets that makes everything look prettier than it actually is. And for once, I didn't think about him. I didn't think about the lies or the betrayal or even the revenge. I just thought about me. What I wanted. what kind of life I wanted to build next. I wish I could say I had a clear answer, but I didn't. Still don't, really. But I know what I don't want now. I don't want a love that makes me shrink. I don't want to be someone's emotional punching bag, or their plan B, or the woman who holds everything together while the man gets to fall apart and blame her for it. I want to be chosen. Every day. Fully. Without conditions. About a week after that email, I got a message from someone I hadn't heard from in a long time, Daniel's old business partner, Liam. Now, Liam and I were never exactly close, but we were friendly. He used to come over for dinner sometimes, always brought a bottle of wine, always complimented my cooking even when it was just takeout I'd thrown into serving bowls to look homemade. He was kind. Smart. The type who always remembered birthdays and asked how your mom was doing even if you'd only mentioned her once in passing. His message was short. Just, "Hey Emily. Just wanted to say I'm sorry for everything you've had to go through. You didn't deserve that. If you ever want to talk, I'm around." I stared at the message for a while, unsure how to respond. I wasn't sure if he was reaching out as a friend, or something more. And honestly, I wasn't ready to explore either. But I appreciated it. I appreciated that someone saw what happened and didn't just look away. Because that's what most people did. You'd be surprised how quiet people get when a relationship ends. Everyone's quick to celebrate your wedding, your anniversaries, your cute Instagram moments, but when it falls apart, silence. Maybe they don't know what to say. Maybe they don't want to take sides. But silence is a side. And I learned very quickly who had my back and who didn't. I messaged Liam back and thanked him. Told him I was doing okay. That was it. No flirting. No emojis. Just gratitude. That someone saw me. After that, I started noticing how much time I used to spend managing other people's emotions. Walking on eggshells. Softening my words. Hiding how I really felt just to keep the peace. It's exhausting. Now, I say what I mean. I don't sugarcoat. I don't apologize for taking up space. I've been spending more time with my sister, too. We were never super close growing up. She was always the wild, free-spirited one, and I was the cautious planner. But lately, we've been reconnecting. We've had long, late-night conversations on my couch about relationships, choices, regrets. She told me she always saw how unhappy I was, but didn't know how to bring it up. That hit hard. Because I think deep down, I knew too. But I buried it under routines and excuses and the belief that loyalty meant staying, no matter what. I'm learning that loyalty to yourself matters more. A few nights ago, I had a dream. I was standing in our old kitchen, the one in the house Daniel and I used to share. Everything looked the same bar stools, same chipped coffee mug on the counter, same broken toaster he never bothered to fix. He was there too, sitting at the kitchen table, looking at me like nothing had changed. He said, "Emily, why are you being so dramatic? This isn't that big a deal." And in the dream, I just looked at him and said, "It is a big deal. You just never wanted to see it." Then I woke up. Heart pounding. Sheets tangled. Room dark and quiet. But for the first time after one of those dreams, I didn't feel haunted. I felt free. I know there's still more healing to do, more layers to peel back, more memories to process. But every day, I feel lighter, stronger, more me. It's funny, people always talk about heartbreak like it's just about losing love. But what they don't tell you is that it's also about rediscovering it. Not in someone else, in yourself. And that part, that rediscovery, it's the most beautiful, painful, powerful thing I've ever experienced. I don't know what the future holds. I don't know where I'll end up or who I'll end up with or even what my life will look like a year from now. But I know this. I will never let myself be invisible again. I will never silence my gut to keep someone else comfortable. I will never confuse being needed with being loved. And if someone ever tries to serve me another envelope, they better be ready for what I've got waiting in mine. Sometimes, I'll be walking through the grocery store or brushing my teeth or just sitting in traffic, and I'll suddenly think, I can't believe I went through all of that. Not just the betrayal, not just the court mess, but the years before it, the quiet unraveling of who I was, one little thread at a time. It's weird, you know? When you're in the middle of something toxic, it doesn't always look toxic. It just feels like stress, or confusion, or guilt. You keep telling yourself, it'll get better. He's just going through a rough time. I just need to try harder. But those little excuses, they pile up. And eventually, they become your whole life. That was me. But I'm not her anymore. Last week, I found myself walking past the courthouse downtown. I wasn't even going there for anything. I was just running errands nearby. But as I passed the building, I stopped. Just stood there for a minute, staring at those big gray steps, and I remembered the day I handed over that envelope. The weight of it in my purse. The way my fingers trembled slightly even though my face stayed calm. The way his lawyer's expression shifted, just slightly, when she opened it and saw what was inside. And Daniel? He didn't even look at me that day. Not once.